Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to today's water cooler chat, where we talk about all things Livepeer, whether it's orchestrating, delegating, gatewaying, transcoding, developing, anything to do on the Livepeer network. We're here to ask questions and get answers. We got a couple topics ahead of us: co-locating GPUs, on-chain GPU financing, the AI SPE starting in Orch, Limitless, network demand, grants, and applications for grants. So let's jump right into a couple of items. So we're gonna do kind of the couple grants things, and then I think we'll jump into a lot of like technical stuff. So, and do you want to kick us off real quick with your topic around
Sure.
Limitless that's coming up, network demand, and grants? Your three topics.
Yeah, totally. So I'll start with grants. So we have a number of pretty cool grants coming up. I can share more details as they're accepted. But yeah, we've gotten a lot of inbound, which is super exciting. A lot of interest in building on Livepeer, as well as building in Livepeer AI. So both the transcoding and AI networks, which is exciting. And for MZ, I'm not sure if that's what's the name, but I did send a decision out to you. So there is feedback in there, but we can always, if you want to set up a call, we can have a conversation about your grant specifically. I don't want to take up like this time to talk about that unless you wanted to share with the community your idea, which I definitely welcome. So lots of exciting stuff on grants. So I'm excited to have a lot of new builders. There's a really cool person named Tobalova who applied, and they're a pretty big open source developer, as well as they're pretty big in like the live streaming community. So that's a pretty exciting application that I had sourced through my network. And I don't know, I think it could be a really good opportunity to kind of get live streaming in more people's hands that is built on Livepeer. So super exciting stuff there. Yeah, I think that's the only one I wanted to highlight. So moving to Limitless, unless there's comments on grant stuff. Nope, okay. So moving to Limitless, like I said, it's at 12 p.m. Singapore time, which is like, super late my time. But coming up, which is super exciting. We've had a ton of RCPs. I think it's going to be a pretty big event, which is super exciting. And hats off to the team that has been developing that event, which include Lauren, Shannon, and a bunch of other folks. So super exciting stuff there. And we'll be presenting, Livepeer AI, of course, and kind of talking about that. Doug will be presenting on what's been going on for Livepeer AI. But over the past few days, and I know a number of folks here have been involved in that, but the past few days, we've been working on scaling up the Livepeer AI network to handle more inbound or demand. And right now, I haven't checked the stats recently, but right now, I think we've just reached over 100,000 requests from Supermodel, which is one of the startups in the startup AI startup program. And they'll also be presenting at Token about what their project is and the future demand they'll be bringing to the Livepeer AI network. So that's really exciting. I'm super proud of the AI team, as well as the folks in ecosystem who made that happen. If you look at Rick's Dune dashboard, line go up, parabolic, dare I say. So I don't know, it's super cool to see. And, I'm just proud of everyone who made it happen, because we ran into a lot of issues scaling up the AI subnet. But, lots of folks here, Rick as well. I don't think Rick is here. He's probably sleeping because he's been working so much. But, everyone kind of banded together this weekend, and we got it working. And, now we get to see the fruits of that labor in the network really going Zoom. So Yeah, that's Limitless, and that's the exciting news on the AI side. Um, yeah, and we're also probably going to be planning another cohort for the start program. Nothing confirmed yet, but I'll be starting to think about that. So yeah, exciting stuff.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And will the Limitless event be streamed?
Unfortunately, no. So it will not be streamed. I don't. I think maybe like Doug's speech will be recorded and some others, but the audience for Limitless is kind of like more like investor um, kind of heavy. So it's like kind of a more private thing, is my understanding. So it's not. So some of them are going to be recorded, but I don't believe everything's going to be live streamed.
Right. So maybe there'll be like a recording or two of speeches, but otherwise,
Correct.
even the questions being asked are maybe semi-private. They don't want to be exposed to the internet right away.
Yeah, potentially. And like, some of the folks presenting are like in stealth, or like they haven't gone public yet. So like there is some like confidentiality around certain things that are happening. Um so that's part of it as well. But if I will, hopefully, folks who went, Doug, Sarah's also there. Um they'll have maybe some learnings or some big takeaways, or I'll communicate those takeaways to the community as I get them. So yeah.
Right on, right on. Cool. Well, I'm excited for the success of the event, and I wish I could be there, but Singapore is an extremely long way away for a lot of people.
Seriously.
Yeah, like it's no short trip. Like Denver was like, oh yeah, okay, roughly the same time zone. Head down, whatever. Yeah, Singapore is a long way for people in the Americas or Europe. So hopefully Livepeer representatives in the Asiatic area um, can make it, and we have good representation there, and pretty exciting. So I know all the top like BC podcasts I listen to are all going to be like, wish I could meet them.
Isn't it so cool? Yeah, the RCP list was very, very long. So I think it's going to be a huge success. So yeah, I'm proud of the team. Like, they've been working so hard on the event.
Cool. Yeah, I'm thinking about putting out some. What day is it again? What day is Limitless?
So okay, it's technically our today.
Right. Well, yeah,
So
because they're ahead.
yeah,
Yeah. So
so it's late tonight, is my understanding.
right, great, cool. All right. Yeah. No, that's excellent. I might put out just like a little video or something. I should do a quick update for people that follow my YouTube. I could tell them that to keep an eye out for it or something like this. Awesome. Anything else to share, Ed?
No, I guess the only last thing is we're cooking up the announcement for a demo day. So the RCP will be going out after Limitless, so on Wednesday, just alpha. And super excited about that. I'll share it with your friends, share it with people. I'll be boosting it, of course, and we're gonna get started to ramp up to the demo day. And yeah, it's gonna be a good time. And also the designs for it, I think, are super cool. Holographic did a great job, so yeah, looking forward to it.
Very cool. All right. Let's keep going on. MZ, did you want to talk? You applied for a grant. Did you want to talk about that, or did you want to read the feedback that I guess the team with N proposed? Do you want to tell us a little bit about the grant, or that was your topic? Did you want to talk about it?
Sorry, I didn't get that. Can you come again?
Just your topic around the grant. Do you want to tell us? Have we seen this grant application before, or is this just an update? MZ, or do you we can share it for later maybe?
No, sorry, I wasn't hearing you. Sorry, what did you say?
Just your topic around the grant application you put forward. You want to tell us a little bit about that, or give us an update?
Yeah, sure. It's about crypto trading app. Um, um, so we're based on it's basically just trading crypto. You receive crypto, you swap to any other crypto you want. You're able to sell to your local fiat currency, and you can also withdraw into your bank account. And added to it, we'll be having a live streaming section where every user of the app could go on live stream, mostly content creators. You let's say you're a DJ or whatever it is you do, you can go on live stream on the app, and every other user following you, just like Instagram, you can follow every person, and then when I'm on live, you get notified that so person you're following is on live, and then you can come on, you can view what they're doing. So the content creator that is on live can actually showcase what he or her do. Like, you can do your work, and then your viewers would be there, and then you also have the ability to reward your most interactive viewers through crypto. You can call it an airdrop, and it will be credited directly from your wallet balance into like whoever receives the airdrop from your viewers. And then the app is also aiming to allow viewers earn crypto as well. Content creators can also get paid based on the amount of viewers they have, the engagement they are pulling in every month. At the end of every month, we have a leaderboard and stuff like that. So we're planning to integrate that service directly from Livepeer, whereby when we're done, we're fine with having the watermark there as well. So we're aiming to just give content creators in general a space where they can showcase what they do. They can hold online classes and then teach their viewers, whatever it is they're doing, whatever it is you want to just pass out through video and live streaming. You can actually do it on the app, and as well as trading crypto, trading gift cards, and as well. So we're aiming to integrate Livepeer into that, and hopefully we're going to be able to like onboard a lot of people, Africans, Nigerians, into Livepeer as well, because obviously from the watermark, people are going to find out, oh, this service is actually provided by Livepeer, and then they get to find out more and all that. So that is like the basic general idea about the app in general. So we applied for a grant, and we're hoping for something good. And I came here hoping to like give a little bit of grief about it. So that's like basically what we do, what the app is supposed to do. You come on live, you stream, you have viewers, you can reward your most interactive viewers, and then you can follow each other. We have a leaderboard and stuff like that. So like that's the basic idea behind the Geely app. And if we're able to integrate Livepeer into it to provide the video service, whether we get this grant or not, like that's not changing the decision of integrating the service through Livepeer. We get the grant or not, we're still hoping and aiming to do that through Livepeer and provide the service, and hopefully onboard a lot of people into Livepeer as well. Because as you know, Nigeria, we have like over 200 million population, and a lot of us are like youths, and we have so many people that are like content creators. That's how a lot of us like make our daily ends meet. Comedians, musicians, DJs, a lot of people, influencers, they have stuff they need to do online. So yeah, that's like the basic idea behind the app, and I'm happy to actually have Livepeer provide a service for us. So like that's it. Yeah.
Very cool. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, if we can get Livepeer integrated into Nigeria or those areas, that would be hugely, a huge milestone for networks. Yeah, if we can support you, that'd be great.
Africa in general, we're hoping to bring Livepeer in and onboard a lot of people into it as well. That's our big aim. Yeah.
Cool. Right on. Well, thank you for sharing, MZ, and yeah, we're rooting for you. Okay.
Thank you very much.
If I just add one thing, MZ, if you would like to connect with me, I'll drop my calendar in the grants channel, and we can connect about your grant offline. So yeah, I can share some of the feedback I got, and we can take it from there. Thanks for jumping out. Nice to have you in the community. And I agree. Nigeria is I think it's the youngest, maybe not the youngest country in the world, but very young, and a lot of people. So definitely an amazing market for Livepeer to be exposed to.
Exactly. The youth in Nigeria alone is like over 100 million, and the crypto adoption in Africa and mostly Nigeria is really serious. So we're hoping to make this a milestone for Julie and for Livepeer as well. And second, also very importantly, I did a little bit of research. The current crypto-based app in Nigeria and Africa, none of them have this kind of feature whereby you get to go on live stream while being able to trade your crypto as well. So this is like the first of its kind. So yeah, hopefully it works out. With Livepeer's help, obviously, yeah, we're hoping to make it work. And your DM is, I don't know. What would you be dropping the calendar? I'll be available anywhere actually.
Yeah, so I'll post it in the grant channel. I'll tag you. I'll do it
All right,
in maybe after this call.
all right, problem. Thanks a lot.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing, MZ. Let's continue on with some more topics. Another topic. So now we can go into kind of Livepeer infrastructure side. We can go on to my topic a little bit around co-locating GPUs. So obviously, what's cool about Livepeer is people have come up with their own methods, acquiring GPUs, locating GPUs, monitoring, managing, financing. All the GPUs on the network. And this was something, I tried to create a pool. The pool works. It works in great some cases. It's difficult in others. But I wanted to revisit this idea of using, how we could create kind of economies of scale, repurposing GPUs onto the Livepeer network. And so, for those that don't know, the Tesla M60 is kind of like a data center style GPU that has 4 encoding and 4 decoding chips. It's the only one with that many chips on both sides. And right now, they're popular because of Tesla. All the Teslas from I think 2016 to like 2020 used Tesla M60s. And so right now, as Teslas age out, get into car accidents, they have an abundance of these M60s. I put a link to eBay, M60s on eBay. You can click them. And they're going from anywhere from $50 to $80 to $100. These GPUs that pull really low amounts of power because they don't have any CUDA cores or tensor cores in them. They're only encoding and decoding chips. So they're just for processing video, which is, what Livepeer transcoding does. So these can't do any AI tasks because they don't have the ability to, but they can do the encoding and decoding. I benchmarked it back in 2021. One of these at max peak resolution, like what is it called? Full stack, 1080p, 720, whatever. It could do about 24 to 25 streams. And so I was just trying to figure out. So I don't know too much about, like, I've been messing around with U1 like data center stuff. Here's another link. Full ladder. There it is. So TC Systems is like another website here that you can buy refurbished servers from 2016. So you can get these like single U servers for $150. Then you could get like an M60 for $50. I don't know if they would fit together, but they are the M60 is 1U in height. You just have to I don't know exactly which form factor it would fit into. And it doesn't need a fan. You could just use the fans on the server itself, and so maybe you could jam like one or two of these into a single U and then ship them over to a co-location in different areas you want. And I found co-locations are as low as $60, $50 a month for single U's in certain data centers. So just wondering if that is like interesting chance to use refurbished stuff on the network. If anyone has any opinions on that. No opinions?
The first thing I can think of is I just wonder what the quality is like, considering how old that encoder is on there. There's several generations newer than that. So that would be my concern is like, what's the quality like?
Well, I think the chip generation is like Pascal, so it's quite.
Oh, the M's are M is for Maxwell, so that would be like fifth generation versus Pascal, which is
six.
I think runs
One above or.
I think those are I think those are one generation newer.
So it's a max.
I just don't know what the quality is, but I would be curious.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was that?
No. I'm just gonna.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't know what the quality is like on those. I just, but I would like to see what it was like. Just to make sure that that we're consistent across the network, or at least pretty close to.
That's a good question. What degree of quality do we need to network provide to or encourage, right? Because the network itself can't determine the difference.
Yeah. Right. They send the same, settings to every org. So even if you could crank it up to like be better, like run to a higher setting, that we don't have the tech to do that per card or per org.
The other thing is it can't do.
And then also,
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was say the some of the newer formats, which currently we're not really doing, but they don't have the ability to do that if we do switch over to AV1. I don't know if they support any other codecs, but I don't think really much matters other than H.264 and AV1.
I guess it depends when we support AV1. That is high demand. These would just be obsolete. Because the other option is like using NetInt cards to like try and do that, but again, I actually don't think that support for NetInt is main big stuff. I think it's Brad or got it, but I don't think anyone ever bought a net card after.
Papa Bear, the dream killer.
Just sending those bullets. Just his dream's dead immediately before takeoff.
No, I mean, I think he's got some really good points. I mean, he knows that hardware very well. We've all seen him talk about those chips. I'm still amazed that he knows all that stuff about him, man. That's great. But I think it would be a good, inexpensive, short-term way to do it. I didn't even know you could do that, and I didn't realize they had four on both sides. That's pretty cool.
It's 2 on each side. My apologies.
4 total.
Oh,
geez. See, now you just made your case even worse now.
Yeah, no, I take that back. Take it back. They're not that great. They're just 2 on each side. And it's slow. Like the clock speed is really slow. Like 800 or 600 megahertz, whatever. So compared to like the new, 4060s or like 2000, 2200 or something. So because of that, it can do 24 streams, but it does them relatively slowly. Like it does them at point, like the score on the benchmark is 0.24 or like 0.22, whereas the 4060 is like 0.08, right? So it's significantly slower to do it, but it's still well into real time. So see, so useless then. 2 slot width as well. Very energy inefficient. Slot width. Oh, I see. Just a thought. Yeah, well, and then we can dive into like AI stuff. So that's transcoding. I mean, we've been working on transcoding hardware for years. We've been doing tons of benchmark stuff, and I think for the most part we've all gotten pretty good with that. I think the next question is around hardware for AI. So the hardware requirements are a lot higher. I met with the guys at Metastreet about what their product is, and what they're going to be doing is basically buying boxes of H100s. So these are like eight H100s in a box, and in whatever, so you spend 200 something grand on a box of H100s. And then they sell like fractionalized NFTs based on the GPUs, which finance the GPUs. So what's happening is there's lots of lenders in crypto that want to lend for returns. However, the only thing kind of on the market is like lending against NFTs. And NFTs don't actually really produce cash flow. They're just kind of, so you're just lending for leverage long people, which is fine, but it's not kind of what a lot of people are interested in. This is why there's like this big movement towards real world assets on chain. And so their product is basically like a real world asset. So a box of GPUs, where people can own fractionalized NFTs based on the GPUs that would finance the GPUs, and then an operator would come in and operate the GPUs and use networks like Livepeer or Render or whatever, anywhere they can find revenue, they go after. And then some of that revenue gets pushed back into the NFTs, the NFT holders as dividend, right? And so, yeah, there's this concept of like lending against deep-in infrastructure is the new meta, is what they want. And so they approached kind of approached Livepeer as a deep-in network, being like, okay, could you use 8 H100s? How much could you generate? What type of work are you doing with it? All these types of questions. And yeah, it was an interesting conversation. So, because I know for the launch of Flipguard, we had to spin up an H100 to handle demand. Brad had to spin one up. So, if that continues, there's an opportunity for the Livepeer network to be an operator for one of these boxes. Yeah, and they didn't know much about GPUs. Like, they're more finance guys than they are GPU guys. So it was interesting having a conversation with them because they think you just buy the thing and it works. And I was like, okay, well, where are they placed? What geographic location? What type of infrastructure? Where are they housed? Where are they? And they basically were like, okay, I don't know any of those answers. We're just trying to figure out if it's feasible. This is where the operator would come in and bring their expertise. So yeah, maybe it's an opportunity for us to onboard a box and put it somewhere that works for us. Yeah, and then we'd bring on institutional grade stuff. So that's or orchestrators become so profitable from doing this type of work that we each get one GPU out of the box. Yeah, so I guess it just comes down to like, are we seeing enough demand now, or can we predict enough demand that we see H100s being kind of the necessity, or are we okay currently with our consumer grade GPUs doing the work and finding that's good enough?
And it really depends on what model you're running. I mean, if your model fits within your RAM, there's not much advantage to running these, server grade cards. In fact, some of them are slower. So it's really more of a memory thing. And where we are now, I don't think it would be cost effective to be bringing on, cards that cost 30 grand a piece or in that range. In the future,
I'm
it's hard to
totally
say,
with,
but
yeah.
I mean,
Go on. Sorry.
it's just it's really mostly the RAM that you're getting from these cards. It's the advantage over consumer stuff, and lower power usage would be the two advantages you get from that. But I don't think that the power usage is not going to offset the price. So again, it comes down to maybe for LLM stuff that are these big models that need that. They could be useful, but I don't think that you'd see much advantage for busting out a bunch of real viz or 2-second videos.
The segment the SAM2 stuff now is definitely, we've seen recent, like, a lot of demand. I think N was going to talk about that a little bit, but this weekend there's definitely a lot more work going on with that model, but it has a low memory footprint, so just requires a bit more bandwidth. But even
Yeah, and
then,
folks
I still don't think it's worth paying an H100. Go ahead, N. Sorry.
No, you're good. I was just going to say that it really depends on kind of like what happens in the future with supermodel. But as of right now, just to get you an idea, they have a pipeline where they're using SAM2 and at the order of like 300,000 images that need to be processed. So, significant demand. I think right now we're at 100,000 requests completed. So in terms of like buying something, it might be too short term as of now to like make a decision like that. But the idea is we continue to get more and more folks on the compute network, generating demand. So then it makes sense for more folks to buy more supply and get more GPUs online, is at least my limited understanding.
Yeah, if you're gonna look at a SAM2 model on 4090, you can spin up about 4 instances, I do believe, as a safe limit. So 4090 can process like five requests at a time. So I don't think that model requires server grade GPUs yet.
Yeah,
And
I think the other thing. Go ahead, Pon. Sorry, finish.
Yeah, what I was going to say, more and more demand we're gonna have on the network. I do believe orchestrator is gonna start spinning up more equipment as well, and other orchestrators gonna join in.
So I was just going to say the thing to remember for this particular model is that we send out images, like text to image, image to image, even audio to text. Depends on very little on how much network bandwidth you have, but the SAM2 model, the amount of text that comes back from the response is like gigs and gigs worth of text data that comes back. So your network speed for upload on the SAM2 stuff has to be really good. Like, it's definitely would affect your score, or would affect your performance rather, if you had low bandwidth. So I have low upload on my my home rig, so I can't really do that model. But in other areas where I have GPUs in data center, I can do that. But it's just keep that in mind when you're thinking about running multiple SAM2 models. Go ahead, Papa. You were going to say something.
No, I was just gonna say I've got 6 running on a 4090 right now, and I see about like max 75% GPU usage. I like to keep a little overhead, but usually it's more in the like 45% GPU usage range. So it's quite a bit of overhead for on a 4090, just for anyone who's considering stacking models on a 4090 or stacking that model.
And what's your bandwidth usage look like over the time you've been running it?
I mean, I don't really track it too carefully, but looks like over the last 2 days, it was roughly a terabyte or so. A little bit less than that.
Don't you have like 5 gig fiber?
Yeah, I do. So for me, it's not really much of an issue. It's, it's home, so it's unlimited.
So it's significantly different than the current profile for
Yeah,
AI.
it's about 800 gigabytes over 2 days. But I mean, if you're running a bunch of video streams too, you're going to use it quite a bit also.
All right. Yeah.
So I
No.
think
Compared to most
video
AI
streams
jobs,
are
it's
video
pretty thick.
streams are more
It has a high.
a consistent set of streams coming in. Like, you could get high usage with high streams that are in long duration, but these requests are like, 20 seconds, 10 seconds, and they like hammering for like a good, like, I don't know, I forget. I would just say 800 megabytes of text data that comes out on one of these
Mike,
requests.
Mike, I just got to stop you there. Did you put like a pillow in your mouth or something? It's like got real muffly.
Really? Hold on. Let me check my headset. Sorry.
Sounds like
Yeah,
someone's like
better.
rolled over in bed and it's just like talking straight down into their pillow. Oh, there you go. Hey, he's breathing again.
No, I did lean back in my chair. I didn't realize maybe my neck or my shirt covered my mic.
There you go. So continue on though. You were kind of saying.
No, I was just saying for a single request that lasts 20 seconds, you'll be serving like 800 megabytes of text data or even more, maybe, 1.5 gigs of text data for that 20-second request. Whereas like a stream, you're getting 2-second duration. Yeah, you got to have a lot of small streams coming through at any given second. And of course, if you have 20 streams that, that could use 50, 60, 100 megabits, 200 megabits worth of data. But those bursts of 1.5 gig, those are big downloads. And if you get a lot of requests coming in concurrently, you're definitely going to be using a lot more than 100 megabits per second bandwidth.
Does the Livepeer orchestrate or gateway for AI have a queuing system? I know that the Flipguard team had their own, like they built their own.
No, they had it's an add-on. It's basically like a request queuer. So you can the web app or the Discord bot interacts with their app, which is like a separate thing. Then it sends those requests in a queued fashion back to the Livepeer gateway node. I mean, that would be something we talked about adding. I think it's just one of those things where, you can queue them up. It probably would be worthwhile to have it in the gateway, especially if all the app builders need to build a queuing system in front anyway. Might be good to put that on the gateway node.
You guys hear me? All right, I think you can. So the queuing side of things is probably not going to end up in the gateway itself, but it's likely going to end up in the SDKs that are coming.
Yeah.
So the gateway will be leaner, more request driven, do what it's told to do, and that's it.
Right, because we don't want to package that in there. Rather have it as an SDK back where people build their own.
Yeah, and the caveat is that's the direction now. things are still fluid, things are still moving, but I think we kind of felt that putting the gateway was just too low, like a too low of a level to put that in. So we kind of were working on the auto-generated SDKs actually have kind of an implementation that we can use. We can try out first and then go from there.
Yeah, it gives the flexibility on the app builder still to determine the queuing mechanism configuration without having to run a gateway.
Yeah, and also lets that queue to potentially use multiple gateways.
True, too. Yes. Cool. That sounds good.
Okay, well, let's continue on. Papa Bear's topic: AI SPE starting an Orc. Tell us, Papa Bear, what's your topic?
Yeah, no, I was just kind of curious to know more about that. If it's planned to be a long-term thing, or is it a short-term thing while AI gets ramped up, or just, I mean, it's taking quite a big chunk of the fees of the network right now, or it's earning a big chunk of them. So I was just wondering, kind of, if we're planning on buying hardware, are we competing with Livepeer's infrastructure? Will we be in the future, or is it just required based on like what the requests are, that we just don't have the stuff, the GPUs that we need for the network? Because mine sit idle most of the time until this weekend.
Yeah, I think it is more of a short-term thing. Rick can talk a lot better about this than I can, but I can give you what I know. We've had that orchestrator this whole time because we've had just a buildup of GPUs that orchestrators are running, right? I don't think it's should be looked at as a competition thing. It's more of a quality of service baseline that we're trying to help provide on it. And I think a lot of times the orchestrators can serve the requests reliably, but in peak demand type situations, we don't have any auto scaling type mechanisms right now built out for everyone. So we are helping bootstrap that
So this,
part
okay.
right now.
So like this weekend has been pretty much all SAM2 requests just coming in from Supermodel.
Yeah. And me and Rick both, we want the
Okay.
fees to go to the orchestrators. And right now, that orchestrator, when it earns its fees, it just goes right back into the pot to provide more requests. We're not, the fees aren't
Okay.
funding the
Yeah,
GPU.
yeah, no, I get you. Okay, I get it. Because I was just wondering also from like a delegating point of view, does that become an attractive orchestrator for people to delegate towards? Also, if it's earning a lot of fees and doesn't have a so
I
it's,
think it's got
you're getting a
100%
full reward.
cut.
Oh, I think the reward cut's 100, or is it 0?
The reward cut is yes,
Which would be
but the fee
right.
cut, the fees are 100% cut.
Oh,
So
it's
that
100,
keeps
right?
all
So
of
yeah,
them.
okay,
So you'd only get
all right,
you only get the people wanting the 0%, possibly.
okay. So yeah, so
Reward
it's
cut.
not really attractive to. Got it. All right. I was just kind of curious to know what was. I didn't realize it had been around for a while. I thought it just started up the last couple days.
Yeah, and I can give some additional context there. Yeah, the reason for that was because we were trying to ramp up demand for a token. So it was a kind of interim solution, like Brad was saying. And my understanding is that like it's going to be a long-term thing. It was just like, so we could get that demand on the network for like the metrics. And ideally, if that's if that demand continues, then we will be able to like scale the network outside of that orchestrator to meet it. I just don't know the technicals of that piece. Maybe Brad, more of that, but like, as people can meet that demand, I don't know how much supply we have to get to the big amount of demand that Supermodel's been sending. So I think that, yeah, that's the piece of it, is that might be online until we can get that supply.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of visibility into how many GPUs all the orchestrators are running. So it really is just like a short-term stopgap, trying to make sure the demand is met, and hopefully we expect to over time to start ramping that down. There's another use case for all of this, like SAM 2 is coming on. It came online this weekend. Ton of fees, ton of requests. People are going to move off other models that may still need serving to
So
get
my next question is like,
to get the more
because I've
fees.
got
So
an
we're
extra
probably going to
4090 sitting around. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll probably it's a fluid thing, so we'll transition probably some of the base capacity GPUs to help serve those other models. Well, other startups are, don't
Right.
start out the gate with the fire hose of requests, and make sure that all those other models will continue to be served.
Right. I got it. Okay. I should probably fire up my other 4090 with SAM too. Get some extra
What
fees out
models
of
are
that
you?
because it's
This will
just pretty much
change
it. I mean, I have
it.
SAM running on one, and I have on another one. I have the video model running, which
And
does
you said
a lot of
that's
the requests.
mostly dormant,
Mostly,
the
yeah.
video model. Okay.
I think the only things that, yeah, I mean, I think I see some work from Flipboard maybe coming in occasionally, but it's
Yeah.
mostly test streams from us testing with the cloud. Yeah. I mean, I can spin up another 8 instances, no problem.
And on the subject of like
What
renting
are
GPUs,
what are
if
people's
I
average times they're seeing?
on SAM 2,
I'm sorry, what were you saying, Brad?
my
Yeah, like
my
what are
question,
people seeing for their
SAM 2 is kind of all over the board. Depends on the connection speed, the image. Usually it should be like 10 seconds or
like just
less.
processing time maybe on the GPU? Yeah,
It's
I'm down.
5 to
I'm
10
doing like
seconds.
less than a second to, yeah, mine are usually like a second or less, or I mean a second or to second and a half in that range.
Yeah,
Processing time though, not round trip.
yeah, yeah. And I think on device
All right,
it
so
should be
I'm
5 seconds or less most of the time. But
right. So I could probably click a couple more onto that 4090 just on a single one even.
yeah, I'll see if I can get Rick to share his script. He's got a script that kind of monitors. He's got a number of he got the model loaded a number of times on the 3090, and it looks like if you get the request at the same time, you get like a 15% drop in performance. Then add one more, you get 20%, a little over 20%. And then if 4 are going at the same time, you can get up to like a 40% degradation. But if you're doing 1 second for or less for one request, even doing 4 seconds, to be honest, it's probably gonna be okay.
Yeah, let me see what I'm doing here. I mean, they come in constantly all day.
Yeah, they
I
come
think
in
it's
batches, so
it's
they're running
between
them in
800
batches.
800 milliseconds to like a 1.7. Just I don't know if it has to do with it. There's multiple ones going at the same time, or if it's different type size jobs or what. I mean, I don't know if each image is the same.
They're not. They kind of vary a little bit, but it's
Okay.
Yeah,
Brian's
I've
posted in the chat that Rick has posted that script. So if you want to look at it and run that, you can kind of keep an eye on
So
if you're seeing big performance loss from stacking too many at one time.
Yeah, I've
What
seen the
okay,
request
it sounds
getting
like
processed from 1 second to about 6 second stops. That's the highest I've seen, I think.
quick question right now, Brad, can any orchestrator like autonomously get jobs from those requests, or is it like everything's being like intentionally funneled to the Livepeer's orchestrator right now? I'm not sure on the technicals of it.
The gateway is connected to the AISP orchestrator just the same as it's connected to all the other orchestrators. So everybody's in an equal footing for the most part
Got
there. So like even my orchestrator, it'll load up to the max capacity that I have on every batch of these requests that come in. Not every
Okay.
single request to get all of them, but it is getting enough work.
Okay, gotcha.
The
Yeah, so
requests
last
are coming from a US location.
yeah, they're using like I don't know what the word is, but the person is based somewhere else, but they're like using that in geolocation. But what was I gonna say? Yeah, so again, it was more like we needed to get a consistent amount of requests completed before today. So like in the future, I don't know what the plan is, but like potentially we can spin some of the GPUs we spun up back down, and then like other orchestrators can like pick that up. It's just going to be can we fill that demand without those extra GPUs that Livepeer spun up? Yeah, I don't know the answer. Maybe y'all have more insight there, but that's kind of like why we needed to do that this weekend or late last week. But moving forward, I think there's like I don't think we've had the conversation yet, but there's going to be a conversation about like how we move forward and giving demand back to y'all.
And to add on that, I have a question for everybody here. If we see a demand, something like this coming, is everybody willing to go rent GPUs to satisfy that demand? We're not always going to know exactly how much demand it is, so any feedback or thoughts on how we could approach the community to maybe a day, 2 days before, 3 days before, to try to get more capacity onto the
I mean, I think
network?
a heads up would be good. I think it just in general. I mean, I would certainly like switch capacity around that I have, like what models I'm running. I don't know how much that would help, but I think it would be helpful to have an extra 6, 7 of instances running at a time, at least from just one org. I don't know how many requests are coming in, but like, how does it work? I mean, they have a huge batch, and like, I mean, is it just basically
Yeah,
everyone's getting saturated at the moment? Like,
yeah.
whenever a
So
Yeah,
I
request comes in, does like everyone running full?
go ahead, Brett. I'll go after.
yeah, they have a ton of data to process. It's async. They're running it in batches. Even with all the GPUs that we've rented in the AI SPE and all the orchestrators that now have it. Last look at the thing, it looked like 10 orchestrators are running this now, and that doesn't say how many GPUs are behind it or how many additional like external containers are stacked. Um, Containers are running. We're still hitting like limits of how much the network can process, but there's an outside limit that's not on us. They're hitting limits as well. So it's kind of
I
a
would think.
double-edged sword.
I think there's going to be a triple-edged sword here. The orc may have limits, and the pool of orcs may have limits, but the gateway also has limits, and so does the client sending the work. So I think sending the work at a high enough scale might need to be distributed, as well as the gateway being distributed. But I think in this case, the U.S. overloaded the Livepeer cloud gateway. I mean, it's only a dev gateway. It really wasn't meant to scale up at large. Like Papa Bear said, if a heads up, we might be able to accommodate for a short burst. But right now, it was like the weekend, the whole thing was getting killed every time they would try to send work through. That gateway gets real heavy when those SAM requests are flowing through it.
Yeah, I mean, I think even you, Rick, and others have said this. It was the network. We were testing it, right? Like for FlipGuard, that was the first test of the network, right? We had like 30,000 requests, I think, and now these requests, my understanding, limited, of course, is like they are more intensive than a text to image, and it's testing the network in another way, which is good, right? This is growth, but it definitely we ran into a lot of issues, like Brad was saying, on their side and on the network side. Moving forward, however, like the big thing for us was like we wanted them to get as many requests in before the conference, or before the Limitless conference. Now the need for it to be quickly completed is like less important, right? So they're going to be sending, another 150,000 requests over the next few days. So we don't have to complete all of those in a week. It can be spread out longer. I guess the question is like, how quickly do we serve large amounts of requests, and like how does that play into the attractiveness of the network? And additionally, potentially in the future, this is tentative, but there could be like millions of images. And if that's the scale, then like what does that look like? And how do we, like, if it's a customer, how do we like serve that, customer quickly enough for them to get their inferences and do what they're going to do with them? So I think those are all like kind of future questions after Limitless is finished and tokens done. Like that's going to be kind of like the next big question. And as well as we get other startups to be on the network, how do we continue to serve them?
Another question I had around the scaling talk, or to add more resources, or to try and answer Brad's question around, are orcs willing to rent GPUs to satisfy demand? I guess another question would be like, how as orchestrators are we coming up with pricing, and do we have calculations on what type of pricing we want to charge in order to make it economically viable to scale up? And has anyone done any research on that?
My first crack at pricing pretty much all the time is looking up file or replicate, and then I generally divide by 2 and kind of go from there. It's hard in situations where we'll know the scale. It's a little bit easier to try to figure out pricing because we can get an idea of within a day or so how many tickets you could get for a specific pipeline. But in other situations, it's not always going to be so clear. But generally speaking, I'll just try to take FAL and divide by 2. Be somewhere lower than FAL or another provider, and then divide by 2, somewhere between there.
Right. So, but even for orchestrators, we're charging, we're charging way for.
You can do USD, but you have to convert that to the compute unit, which is pixels for most things, but also is milliseconds for like audio text.
Also, another just add-on for like demand stuff. Technically, Supermodel actually has 2 models. They want to use the SAM and LoRa's in their pipeline. So actually, the request number is going to be doubled. This is just them sending SAM requests, and they're going to resend everything with the LoRa's once they're merged. So yeah, I think that definitely is now a good time to start thinking about that for orchestrators. Like how's that going to work? What's it going to look like?
I personally like renting to try to figure out how a model is going to look, because then I'm not 2,000 plus in the hole. We're trying to see how something may or may not work with either my setup, my orchestrator, how my node gets jobs. Like we could use the Flipkart thing as an example. They needed some capacity for Flux Dev, and I just rented an A100 for like 5 hours. That's like $15, $20. It's just to get an idea of how it works and help them get through a tough patch. But like I'm willing to do that as an orchestrator because just get it all served, get it done. But would I rent that H100 for 24 hours a day for foreseeable future? I don't think so right now.
Yeah, and maybe there needs to be like a way for those pushing requests like communicate the size. That's a more decentralized. I mean, right now the startup program, right, is of course centralized with Livepeer, right? We're running that program, or I'm running that program. So I think I can potentially communicate again. It might be more soft numbers, but I can potentially communicate like, hey, what are we expecting? I think some folks from Studio are going to be taking over the conversation there. I'm not sure right now, but that might be a way like where it's like, hey, I'm going to be sending like 10,000 requests on this pipeline. Do we have enough and there can be maybe a channel where people talk about that, and just thinking how it becomes decentralized rather than like us telling everybody, which like probably scalable for what the future is going to look like. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's another problem that we're trying to workshop to figure that out. Right now, yeah, it's very manual. You have to just go out and ask, say, hey, I got X number of requests. We need, people start moving over to serve it. So I think, I don't know if it'll always be that way, but right now that's probably how it's going to be.
What about gateways? How do they set their prices?
Gateways set max prices. So they said, I'm willing to pay X dollars to an orchestrator to do this job.
Right, but isn't there going to be some sort of mismatch if, like, this is the thing about transcoding. The same issue arises with, if a large gateway has a certain price and they lower it, then all of a sudden some orcs are left out because they're just slightly above. I mean, that's already kind of set in stone because the Livepeer, model had already worked. Just trying to think like we've gone from 1200 way per pixel down to 900 down to we're down to about 150, right? But it's because of the research and demand from Livepeer Inc. kind of requesting these prices, kind of falling in line because work. Now we have maybe more decentralized gateways. So what's the communication style between gateways and orchestrators so that gateways get a good response, get a good pool of orcs, they're not pricing them out, or gateways. I think what I'm just thinking about is gateways need a way of going, we need more resources, let's just up the price. But does up the price actually include more orchestrators, or is it just cause orchestrators to go, hey, we can charge more and you get the exact same amount of supply, and then vice versa, like I just think this is an interesting dynamic that the early stages is quite hard, and because it's a place. So
It's a good point, and I could probably attest to this. There's not a lot of visibility on the gateway side without doing some manual work to figure out what the price pool is. You definitely can't see anything that's you can't see anything that's like priced out. So orchestrator is just entirely too high. They just won't even. There will be no response from them. They won't be included in any pools. There'll be no request to it. You won't see it.
could we give guidance to to gateways to say, instead of just responding, hey, I'm not available, responding with your price is too low, in response, here's my price. And then maybe when you are actually doing the inference in your logs, you could say like, hey, listen, you know 10 out of 20 orcs that replied were priced out. You know, here's the simple calculation for the average price, or maybe a ladder of prices to now include more orcs or less. So it gives the orchestrator more insight into, so it gives the gateway more insight into the network for saying, hey, if I increase my price, I get more supply. But if 10 out of 10 replied, and I'm maxing out the capacity, then increasing price doesn't get me immediate response in more capacity. It might do in the long term because that gateway, that model now pays more, so therefore people will be incentivized to move over to the model. But I think giving the gateway and orchestrators that communication of, hey, my orchestrator rejected 10 jobs because I'm priced too high, or hey, the gateway lost 10 orchestrators because your price too low. I think that type of communication could be pretty important.
I'll say another factor too is, there's like a kind of value alignment of like, hey, I want to use decentralized compute, but there's also a price component of like, if there's too much negotiation, is it just easier for a client or someone who wants to use, the network to just go to AWS? And I think that's another factor that I know Doug has talked about, of like the price has to be at a certain point, for it to be, my understanding is for it to be like, compelling. So that's another piece of the equation too. I don't know how that factors in, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
I think it's a good point, Titan. That communication isn't really there. The two-way communication that you're talking about, it just isn't there right now. I think we'll keep it in mind as we kind of think about. There's an overarching thing of the whole signaling process of saying, gateway saying, look, I keep trying this request, I keep trying this model, it's failing. There is no like communication to the orchestrators that's happening right now. So we're trying to figure that out.
I mean, this is a because other networks do other things where they like the payment token as their governance token, and so therefore the price is just valued based on the token price, which really doesn't help deepen networks because
Right.
A hedge fund comes in and 10x is the price of the token, and now your deepen protocol is 10x more expensive for arbitrarily absolutely no reason other than market forces. Like that's not a good model either, right? So like, and then the More protocol, the Morpheus protocol, they do this thing where if you're in the top 100 stakers, you get unlimited inference, right? So you don't have to have this whole question about price, right? You have to have the threshold, get into the top whatever, and you get 100% unlimited inference. You can just pound the network. And on the return, all the inflation goes to the inferencers, the operators who are providing inference, and the percentage of the inflation you get is based on the amount of requests you process, right? And so there's this like complete removal of a buyer and a seller and a price point. It's just like the buyer gets unlimited. They know that if they buy the token to a certain degree, they have unlimited inference, and the inferencer just gets the inference price that they get, and it's inflationary, and so what it does is it acts more like an AMM than it does like a bid ask spread, which AMMs have always kind of been more crypto native because they don't require this double-sided market, right? It's like this pool.
Mm-hmm.
And so is that a more appropriate way of handling pricing on the network? That would take a huge overhaul of the Livepeer network, but I'm just trying to think of ways to smooth out the pricing between the gateways and the orchestrators, because it's the transcoding has really just worked because we really only have one large gateway, and that's Inc., and they're exceptionally good at communicating their max price, right? They give us lots of heads up. They are pretty static in it. They give explanations around their decisions. But whenever we've had like, if for instance we had multiple gateways with different pricing, and is their communication style good enough to handle to give us this kind of feedback? Are we going to end up with just a bad user experience because people can't figure out the pricing on the gateway or the orchestrator side? And so you could have the best pipeline in the world with the best product offering, but you don't know how to set your pricing, and so all of a sudden everyone's just really confused and falls apart, right? It'd be nothing worse than like going to eBay. I mean, this is why eBay used to be like just auctions, but it was like you didn't know what anything would ever be priced, so they just added a buy now button, and then the thing just exploded, and everyone just like uses the buy, like who uses eBay for its bidding process, right? It's like so rare now, right? It's almost all buy now. So
I actively avoid the auctions.
Right,
On
like
eBay now.
yeah, eBay would like started out as just pure auctions, and then they added the buy it now button, and then everyone's like, oh wait, I can uncheck the the auction button, and I can just I know I have a list of options of buy it now. That is preferable to buyers, right?
Yeah, I think me and Pond just cruise eBay and just send out lowball offers on the ones that accept offers to see what lands.
Yeah, and then there's
Yeah,
like,
it does work time to time, that technique. Yeah.
does it actually work?
I think
Yeah, it
Pond
does.
got a
But
very
you
expensive toy doing that.
yeah, I got my A100 like that. Just send a stupid offer. Wasn't expected him to accept it, and he did.
Right, and we find that funny, right? Like that's probably not.
I did. I did, and I was annoyed at the same time that I'm buying A100 now.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's actually funny. It's
And I'm a little curious on your thoughts on how Titan's comments about like smoothing over the pricing and getting people started, and like the startup program's doing that in a way, and like how you see that evolving over time. Maybe the AISPE just keeps providing free inference for, pays for the inference for a certain amount of time, or grants, or startup program, stuff like that.
Sorry, was that to me or?
Yeah, that was to you. I was curious to your thoughts on like we're not going to fix the overall problem of like
Yeah.
pricing and trying to figure that out right now. So in the interim, how the startup program seems to be doing a pretty good job of that, right? We're getting people on, we're trying to help them get started, and the thought is they'll just keep going, right? Just kind of curious
Yeah,
your thoughts on how that evolves over time.
Yeah, I think I think there's two pieces, right? The first is, right, the network is still young. So I think a lot of things are like at least from the startup program and are subsidized, right? So part of the agreement in the startup program is, each startup gets $20,000 I mean, in LPT, and then they also get $20,000 for infrastructure credit. So at this moment, right, we like Livepeer Inc. is footing the bill for the demand generation on the network. So we have like some time, and the credits that we gave the first batch of startups, the current 8, it expires in December. So like January 1st, it expires. So the idea is like, okay, can we incentivize people to be on the network for the next, for Q4, and past that, right? We can incentivize potentially people to like explore the tech, get on, decentralized compute through Livepeer AI. I guess then and again, I'm still newer. I wasn't at the genesis of the subnet, but the question then is like, okay, well then, what's retention look like? And that's kind of goes back to what I was saying before: is like, is value alignment enough, right? Is this idea of like, hey, I'm not supporting Amazon, right? Is that a strong enough feeling for different businesses or different founders, or is the price going to be the key thing, and like how we deliver compute to people and how quickly they get their inferences back? All those things are, again, I don't know if other folks at Livepeer have thought about this. I assume they have, but that is kind of the questions that we're going to have to answer moving forward, to my understanding. And again, right, I've only been here for 3 months, so like, take it with what I'm saying with a grain of salt there, but that's kind of like how I've been seeing, like, as I've run the starter program, those are the kind of big questions. So we have like, a number of months, at least with these 8 startups, to kind of like, string those folks, not string them along, but, like have them, have a free compute option. But then past that, I think the question remains is like, can we retain? So yeah, I'm not sure if I answered the question, but I think that those things, they need to be figured out in a way that will allow people to stay on. And again, right, I think from what I've heard from Doug, that really is about price point, and about how quickly we can deliver inferences both to clients.
Yeah, I think that all makes sense. I mean, the biggest providers do something similar. They give you free credits. They come on over and just use all of it that you can, in a certain time frame. So I think that makes sense. I think the ISB, I think we can just we can improve, maybe like we set prices in the docs of like what we think they should be priced, but in the end, it's up to each orchestrator how to do that. It would probably make some sense for us to put a little bit like a paragraph together of how we came up with that price to kind of explain
Yeah.
it, and people can go double check that they didn't just the ISB didn't just like severely misprice or misprice it or whatever, or price it too low. Or
Almost like experts
yeah,
on, yeah.
and we
Yeah,
can
that
just make it easier for people. I mean, it is up to each orchestrator to figure out their own pricing at the end of the day, but a guide rail or some guidance or background wouldn't be too hard for us to put together, since we're already doing it.
Yeah, and I think, and this is probably benchmarking we're going to do in the next quarter or next few weeks maybe, is actually I think Rick is going on vacation. Anyway, but kind of what price point makes sense for each inference, or for each request, because I know Rick did some market research about Fall and Replicate and AWS, and we've been learning about kind of what those startups are seeing on that end, in terms of like what are their prices, what is it costing them to use other platforms for compute. So I think that that's another piece, is like, can the network be more cost effective than competitors, and what will that landscape look like? So yeah, again, I'm kind of still, like I said, not the most educated about all those questions. So hopefully, Rick and Doug and others, and all of you, of course, you're more educated than I am, can provide valuable insight there into like where we go in the future.
Anyone else have any comments, like how we could help you better understand the pricing that we set in the docs?
I mean, the docs have been the only thing that I go off of for pricing. That's also, is that up to date? Is that accurate? Is that what we want? Is that what gateways use? Is that what orcs use? Maybe there's an opportunity to build like an oracle that could figure this out and make it fair on both sides, and we could use like free, gateways and orchestrators can use oracle, and they could oracle could do the research, and an oracle SPE can do the research and be competitive and fair at the same time. Like, would people subscribe to that, or is that not decentralized?
Well,
I
for the
think
price to be like for the market to decide what the price is, like first there should be like a place where what's going to be the demand and the supply, and we don't have that fixed at the moment because most of the orchestrators that are like down below, like maybe 70 to 100 or 60 to 100. I don't think they get any like oh well with the AI, I think we have 30, and the ones below, I don't think they're getting transcoding like the AI. But how would we even think about pricing that in if we aren't even using the capacity we have for the network?
Yeah, and I know someone had mentioned, like, maybe you brought it. Someone mentioned like a max price that is set, and I don't know if, like, if you think about tokens um through like Uniswap or AMMs, like is that the, like, again, we were talking about this before, but like, is that the model? Does it look like kind of like market maker, like the price is dynamic, or is the price, again, like you had mentioned, like Oracle set based on, like, the kind of competitive landscape outside of Web3? I think there's a lot of considerations, and potentially there can be a lot of solutions, and maybe one wins out, or maybe no one wants to do the Oracle, or maybe people just want to set their own prices and like see what happens. Um, yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Or does it work on like the Ethereum gas price, calculator, where it's just is basically set to 0, and everyone just continually outbids each other by
Yeah.
$1 until you hit and then you have
Uh,
gas spikes in the Livepeer ecosystem, right? Like, I don't
So
know.
you
So
hit cost plus 1%. Everybody's just making 1% off of what it costs them to do it.
yeah, like, I don't know. Is that, then it becomes really cheap when demand is low, and it becomes expensive when demand is high, and then your app doesn't work because demand spikes, and I don't know.
well, that could be an interesting model, because that, I think that kind of more dynamic, like, and there's a dashboard, you can see where the price is, that could incentivize people to, like, if they have GPUs, to switch over, to add that to Livepeer's network. So I think the Ethereum model is interesting, because when I joined Web3, like back in 2019, 2020, I crypto at that time, but anyway, I like Web3, that vocabulary better. But regardless, like, I think that I was priced out of ETH and Bitcoin. Right? I couldn't afford one transaction on Uniswap. Right? I was not going to spend $50 to like swap like $50 worth of tokens. So so for me, I was like, well, I'm priced out. So then I went to Solana and Celo and Elrond, if folks know that, and other POS L1s, a lot of which are now L2s, and then L2s came online, right? So maybe there is something to be said about if you do have this like high price, maybe the industry can mobilize around, hey, let's get the price lower. Maybe there's alternatives, like the idea of an L2, like maybe something similar that's generated within our ecosystem. There's something to be said about that kind of more organic method, but I think in terms of customer experience, right? If you think of me as a customer of like joining Web3 or crypto and be like, I want to swap a token, and it's like, oh well, too bad, you're too poor, right? Like, it's like there is like something to be said about that experience, and there's also like a negative to it, where it's like, if the price is too high on Livepeer, it's like, okay, then why use it to compute, right? Why not just go somewhere else?
Yeah. Yeah. This whole pricing models in networks, huge area of research. I don't think I'm qualified to make any actual recommendations, but I just know that as it stands, there's a lot of gray area of, broad gateways can't see if they're pricing out orcs, and orcs can't see if they're underpricing or overpricing their work. And so maybe it's as simple as just log lines being like, hey, listen, you didn't capture all the orcs. Like, I would recommend increasing your price. And the orcs being like, hey, listen, you're rejecting like 90% of the jobs. I suggest you lower your price. And we could make a Grafana dashboard that's like number of jobs rejected for price, and you have your little scale, and another Grafana scale of like, these are the prices of the requests coming in. So you kind of match up the two. Like, is this one just grieving me, just sending me a billion gwei per pixel? Like, oh, they're just like screwing over my metrics, and now I have to whatever, right? Like, it's just like, you can kind of read into that a bit, then you can make your own decisions as orcs and gateways, and we can come to a better maybe it's not perfect, but it's a lot less choppy, and that wouldn't require an entire overhaul of the system and what we've built with Livepeer, right? Because a lot of other protocols are starting from scratch and they have different ideas, and they have their own pluses and negatives, right?
And I start to jump soon, but last thing that I'll contribute is that, like, I think my understanding is, and Brad, you can correct me. I know Rick isn't here, but my understanding is that like the AISPE is going to be kind of leading on the charge of like what might make sense. I know that Rich is also going to be spinning up potentially like a governance working group that might lead into an SPE, but like potentially that folks in there might have ideas. So yeah, I think that's kind of like what I thought was how it worked, but I could be wrong.
That's about the extent that I know. Rick and Rich are much more
Okay.
involved in those conversations, but this will be fluid. This is going to evolve over the next 6 months to a year.
Yeah,
and
totally.
It'll be pretty cool to watch it and be part of it.
I agree. I think it's a really exciting opportunity. So, yeah.
All right, I think that was Papa Bear's topic. We kind of commandeered it. I think that's most of the discussion. Any other topics that we'd like to cover that we haven't so far?
I have just kind of a question, but it's for Mike and Papa Bear. How are the tests going? How's building out that going? Any findings so far, or still too early?
You mean the job runner?
Yeah, the tester and all that build out.
It's going pretty good. I think we've gone through a lot of the development, and we've gone through requirements, and we built all this stuff out. We're starting to deploy to multiple regions. And a lot of things are different and need to kind of be sorted out, like the UI with the models and pipelines, being able to show it in a mobile friendly way. Been some challenges working through that, just trying to make it present well. Just being able to like capture the test data and store it by region, making sure you have everything, the scores calculating properly. There's a lot of like just little things that are still kind of just making things take longer, just all the details, just working it out. But as I said last call, it was one of the interesting things that I thought was that we've enabled each region to be able to test all orchestrators around the world just by increasing the discovery timeout. And it's very cool to see that if you're in the EU, you can reach LA and still get back jobs in a reasonable amount of speed that may not work out of the box with the current gateway. So I think there's definitely little nuggets like that we're going to see as we roll it out and people start looking at it. I mean, I wouldn't say in the next 2 weeks or so, but maybe in 2 or 3 weeks here coming up, we'll be at a point where we can open it up from a beta testing perspective. Folks can get a chance to take a look at it. I'll have to look at what that might look like, but we're definitely trying to get it done as soon as possible. And we still got a good amount of work left, but I think we're definitely down the home stretch from here.
Good.
Yeah, one of the things I noticed that I mean, if you think about it, it makes sense, but I didn't really think it all the way through. Was if you get a test while you're doing another job, it will really screw your score up overall for the day. Versus like if you're transcoding, you get one extra stream. Generally, you don't really notice it, but like if you're processing a job, a test comes in, expect your score to just be off for way off compared to because you're using the whole GPU basically for a job. So like getting a job while you have or getting a test while you have a job really affects your how the score is represented if you look at it like as an average as opposed to a single job that comes in when you don't have when you're just sitting idle.
Yeah, that's a good
So
point.
just
Are you guys
it's
storing
not-
like UTC time along with the tests?
Yeah, everything's UTC. I mean, there's no way we can keep the time zones in sync. And that was the other thing is like being able to like correlate it back to your orchestrator, right? Like if you go onto the test and say, "Oh, what time was the test?" and you got to guess like what your time zone was, where with like an orc in a gateway in LA versus a orc in the EU, and it can be very confusing trying to sort through time. But yeah, anywhere possible, UTC is the way to go.
Right on. Cool. Any other questions or comments? Before we sign off?
I did. I don't know if you guys can you guys hear me?
There he is. How you doing, sir?
We can hear you.
Oh, hey guys. I just put on a headset. Sorry about that. I had a question. It sort of ties into what Titan wanted to discuss, and I wanted to ask Brad actually what his thoughts were on this. Brad, since you have now left us, um, what are your thoughts on how do you see net-end cards being supported? Because one of the things these net-end cards, how much AI work we could offload to them, because most of that is for sort of security camera applications. I mean, at least it was originally designed for that, but I'm sure that they can add in more sort of tensor cores and things like that as long as there's demand. My question to you was, how do you see these cards being supported in Livepeer in a sort of sustainable way moving forward?
That's a good question. Josh would be a good one to kind of bounce that off of too, because he worked on Livepeer before, and he's back right now. I don't know how long he's back for, but from my understanding, those cards became the plumbing's there in Go Livepeer for those cards, but the problem was since we were on such an old version, it became much more difficult to patch in the FFmpeg changes that you needed to get those cards to work. So they basically sent you like a patch set, if I remember right, and you apply that to the FFmpeg. But now that we are on the newest version or newer version, I don't think it's the newest, but as long as now that we're on the newer version, I think it is easier. But ideally, I think what you're driving at is there would be a special build that is done automatically, right? For the net-ending card, so you don't have to rebuild it yourself. I think that would be possible without too much work. The question then becomes how closed off are they on their patch set, and are they willing for that to be part of an open source software automatically built? And then the next part would be how many orchestrators actually have it, and is it worth it to go down that route of doing that? So, is there? I mean, what do you think? I mean, I think there would have to be kind of a minimum set of orchestrators that would be having these cards to make it worth it to like automatically build it, but maybe not. Maybe it's not that hard. I haven't got back to it yet, and on the left.
I think that's a bit of a chicken and egg problem. I think the reason orchestrators aren't buying these cards because they're quite cost effective is that they aren't supported. If they were supported, I think
Yeah.
orchestrators would buy them, especially given their price per watt performance. I mean, Titan is really trying to think outside the box, trying to get these Teslas, which may or may not perform as well as we have come to expect for live video transcoding, but these net-in cards will absolutely smoke even the better NVIDIAs that we use. So as long as orchestrators are in the business of transcoding live video, I think that every orchestrator could be a potential customer, because who doesn't want to pay less for electricity while getting the same work done?
It also depends on how many orchestrators actually have their setups in the cloud or in server cases, because they don't have fans, right? You need some pretty good
Right, but
cooling
I
just in
mean,
case.
coming back to what Titan was saying, how do you expect orchestrators to move into data centers if we're never going to use data center grade cards, right? If you're always going to have a form factor of a card which is intended to be put into a desktop case and not with a front to back sort of cooling, I mean, where do you suppose this chasm can be, sort of overcome? We just have to take the dive sometime, right? And it's not going to happen with NVIDIA GPUs, not for transcoding at least.
I mean, my transcoding has been done on server grade GPUs for over a year. I have a 1U server in a data center close to me. I took that leap because the connection's better and it's more predictable power wise, no power outages or less power outages and stuff like that. I think in the long term, the transcoding will get there more so as we scale the number of streams that we need to serve. And I don't disagree with you. I think these cards are great. The watts they use is basically nothing compared to what an NVIDIA GPU would do. The only downside I see, the only downside of these cards is they pigeonhole you into specific hardware that you probably can't resell.
The other just diversifying the hardware base, like Nvidia already put out a restriction on the patch. Like we had to get around that. Like, I don't think Nvidia actually wants their consumer cards to be patched to be able to do that the degree of transcoding. So like, there's a lot of 1070s, 1080s out there that are still plunking away and doing a great job. And but they're the Nvidia is trying to prevent that from happening, right? So at what point do they succeed in their drivers in the future? And we have no way of bypassing the limits. And so, does that put us?
That's a good point. That's a good point too.
Ethereum is renowned for having client diversity, right? 4 different clients to run the blockchain. And everyone hates Solana because it's only got one client and it goes down and the whole network freezes. Like, we're dependent on Nvidia cards at this point, right? Flo says Nvidia moved to open source driver now. Yeah. I don't know because it obviously it's a driver limitation, not a physical limitation. So I think pretty much it's always be able to get around it. But just some thoughts. But again, we don't actually have any real demand or supply side issues with transcoding right now. A lot of the conversation is around the AI work. We are hitting those.
Yeah, but nonetheless, I'll bring it up I'll talk with Hunter about it. Hunter likes these net-in cards too, so I'll try to see where we are on that roadmap, where they are on
I mean, because this thing is so complex, it's not even like I could call up Netin than I have in the past. But to discuss driver integration with Livepeer, I wouldn't even know where to start.
Yeah, that's why I was interested in the Tesla cards, because they just use NVIDIA drivers and totally backwards, whatever compatible. They just work out of the box, right? Like you don't need any. Oh, you have to use the server NVIDIA driver. I don't think you can use like the generic one. Like it doesn't work. But I got it transcoding with a server NVIDIA driver, and it worked with Livepeer immediately. So that was the one reason for the data center Tesla cards. Like low wattage, works already.
How much was it for?
How much are M60s?
How many watts? Yeah.
Well, they're like $80. How many watts? I don't know. It was something like 40 or something. Max capacity. It wasn't very much.
And how many streams could they do?
24, a full ladder.
Oh, wow. That's with what? And real-time latency?
Yeah, 0.2. I have the benchmark somewhere. 0.24 at 24 streams, full ladder. So
Wow, these are interesting cards.
it's not bad. Like it's not bad, right? For a $50 card to do 24 streams full like.
Not bad. I think this is just the best GPU if it manages to do even 20 streams in real time.
Yeah, it's real time. Like it's 0.2. Now it's not 0.08 like the the new card, but
Amazing,
if
yeah.
it's in a data center and you don't have an orchestrator node in between, then it's plenty fast, right? Anyway,
Yeah.
it is getting to the top of the hour. I do have to run, and we've been here a while, and other people are heading off. So I'm gonna conclude it there. Thank you everyone for coming, making Livepeer the open and decentralized video infrastructure in the world. Thank you for coming by for this water cooler chat. We'll see you all next week. Cheers.
Right.
Thanks, guys.